I'm just going to wait a little while. Can everybody hear me? Can you raise your hand if you can? Thank you. Some people have logged on to Teams. So we're just waiting for them to come across to the Zoom link. Leonard, how are you?
Oh, sorry, Harry. Sorry. Forgot. You asked me to put my hand up so I could hear, and I forgot to take it down. Sorry.
Oh, no, no problem. No problem.
I'm getting used to this. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Fine, fine. I'm just going to unmute some people just in case something goes wrong during the presentation and you can't hear me or anything. If you could just shout and say, oh, none of us can hear you, or we can't see your screen. Thank you. So we're 26. I've got 56 people expected. So I'm just waiting to see if there's anybody else who is coming on. Just going to give it another minute, everyone. Hi, Jill. Thank you for joining us on Zoom. Sorry about that.
It's okay, Leah. I would say the only thing I would say is all the invitations that were sent out were for Teams.
You know what? I don't use Zoom, and I'm not going to be using it again. I'm using it for Thursday session, never again. So what I did was I sent the invitation out using Teams so that it would be in everybody's calendar, which is a mistake because people didn't then read that it says, location Zoom. So it is a lesson learned. I did send out a few other emails going, please sign on to Zoom. I'm not sure if everybody got that, but I think Teams seems to be our natural territory now, and these are just as easily done over Teams. In fact, I just think that they're a little bit more interactive.
It's interesting because actually we barely use Teams. We use and we use Zoom all the time. I have 2 Zoom meetings every morning, and if we're going to do something organisationally, we do it on Zoom. I think CEO uses Teams for meetings, but otherwise I use Zoom. But yeah, it's fine, as I say. I think, but it's just it's just that I don't find them very different. But as I say, that's the problem. I think people probably have just clicked automatically the link to take them into the meeting.
Yeah. And for Thursday's session, I didn't send it out through Teams because I realized a lot of people were doing that. So it is a lesson learned on this one. And hopefully today's will go okay, in that it is not my natural territory, but there we go. So
it will be absolutely fine.
Thank you, Jill. I'm also going to keep you on unmute, if that's okay, just in case anything happens with the presentation. If you and Pete can just shout at me and go, something's gone wrong, that would be great.
Okay, that's cool.
Thank you. So we've got
31. Be quiet.
Oh, no, don't be quiet. If you've got any questions, don't be quiet. Leonard, did you have a question?
No, not really, Leo. I don't have any question. I think I'll put my hands up because you asked if people can hear you.
I did. And I was just wondering, because I'd spoken to you earlier and I thought I'd unmuted you and you didn't respond. So I thought, oh, but how are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Oh,
Busy, but it's
I
all
know.
good.
That's why I haven't disturbed you too much. Are you looking forward to being chair of the coming up on the 18th? It's soon now, soon. But I know that this is a really busy time for you, so I won't be disturbing you too much.
Not at all. If you need to pick up a phone, please
Thank
do. And I've got some few of my colleagues from Incolab. I've promoted it in terms of our conference, so you should get some few more booking from them.
Lovely, excellent, excellent. So I am going to start because I think we've waited long enough. Let me share the screen. And if you could just let me know, can you see that? And can you see it as a full screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent, great. So let me start. So you've all come to the data quality workshop number 1. There are going to be 2, and I might do a value for money one in April, or I might get Denise to do that one. But at the conference, it is going to be a TSM 1 at the conference, which Denise will do. There's a breakout session. So if you are coming to the conference, you could also attend that. So this one is really just going to focus on the allocations and lettings, income and asset management and satisfaction. A number of you might have attended Steve's session Steve's presentation last year. If I could just ask those who are on mute, that I've given permission, if you could just aren't on mute, if you could mute yourself, just getting some feedback. So you might have attended Steve's. Mine will be obviously different because I'm not Steve. But his is also on the website. So if you want to go back and review Steve's, and mine will also be on the website as well. So you will get that, and they'll also this pack will be on the website. So what I'll be discussing today is just what the sort of purpose is for benchmarking, the basics, just reminders, some of the reminders about the key definitions on allocations and lettings, income management, asset management, and satisfaction. Anything that I can't be answered now will I'll send out an email after the session, but as I say, it will be recorded. Just a little reminder about the data entry schedule. I'll be sending out reminders probably this week to everyone, just to say, you know, start planning to enter your data from the 1st of April. So 23-24 is open for data collection. Starting the 1st of April, we will close it on the 31st of May in order to then process the information. And we'll get the first sort of edition out to members around about mid-June. And then that gives you the opportunity at that stage to sort of come back to us and go, if you want to change anything, or if you didn't understand something, or if your data doesn't look right and you need to check it, you'll be able to do so at that stage. And then we'll produce the sort of final data sheets in July, and most of the clubs, well, all of the clubs will be having sessions in July to go through those data sheets. What was agreed at the meetings was that for the sort of half period, we won't do that sort of full glossy report, but we'll do that one in October, and we'll focus on the data sheets for the July meeting, just so that you know. And then just if you want to plan in advance, here's the final edition. And also, oh, somebody can't hear something. Let's just see what could be going on. I'm not sure if it's theirs. Anyway, so final edition will be obviously in August, and then in October we'll have one-to-one, face-to-face benchmarking club meetings. So a little bit of an overview. I will stop every now and again and have a look to see if there are any questions or anything in the chat that I can respond to. If I can't respond to it, I'll get back to you with regards to that as well. So just what an overview is, what is benchmarking? It's cost and performance, customer feedback, service review, shared purpose. So it's not just this information, it's not just us benchmarking, it's all that information that you get from your customers in whichever way you get it, your service reviews in whichever way you get it, and all that information is used in order to inform your business strategy, your goals, your business plans, your team plans, your performance, etc. It's not, you can't take it just in isolation, and I'm absolutely sure you don't. It's also just gives you an understanding of what good looks like, because you can then compare against your peers. So like for like, and that's why it's really important that you use the definitions that have been approved. Webinar invitation, we're getting a whole lot of people. Sorry, let me just get back onto here. I just need to send them another message. All right, sorry, there we go. I'm probably going to have to hold this session again for those who weren't able to attend because they went through Teams. Okay, so it is about understanding what good looks like. So really important that you follow the definitions, and also, again, just to reiterate, and I'll be reiterating this all the way through, really important that you do submit data if you're part of the benchmarking club, because to get really good, solid, comparable data, we need lots of it, and we need a lot of quality data, and we need data that's followed the definition. So it really is incumbent on everybody to really participate in this activity so that you can actually have a really good look across. I mean, a lot of the other sort of PIs that you draw down for the regulator and any other statutory ones that you're required to draw down often sort of they're more sort of high level, whereas this is a bit more granular, and this can actually help you more internally improve, so that those sort of high level data sets that you have to capture from a regulatory point of view are actually really good, because you've had an opportunity to improve any of your service delivery where you might find some issues. It's also a good way to set evidence-based improvement plans. So as you all know, improvement plans are no use if you can't actually evaluate the impacts and see where you're coming from, have some sort of a baseline to where you're going. So really important to be able to do that. And I think we all do that. It's less is more. Focus on getting a smaller number of key metrics right, rather than having a whole lot. So every year we do talk about looking at your metrics that you do produce, and saying, actually, is anything that we need to take out? Is there anything that we need to put in? And you will have noticed from last year that quite a number of the metrics that you were collecting came out because they already replicated in the TSMs, which we then take from if you are doing your TSMs through Acuity, we do then share that information with you in the reports. So what benchmarking isn't, it's not everything that is performance management. Not everything that's performance management needs to be benchmarked. So less is more. Don't benchmark everything for the sake of it. It's not a finely calibrated tool. It's crude. You do need to think about, even when you are comparing against your peers, they might have a slightly different tension. So they might have slightly different stock, or they might be in a different region where different things are occurring. So whatever you do, just because you may be below them in the league table or above them in the league table, it doesn't mean that you're doing better or worse than them. You just need to take the context into consideration, but it does give you an idea of what is going on. It's not something that should be designed to blame or expose failures. It doesn't legislate for absolutely every eventuality. You've got to use, obviously, common sense. And benchmarking is not about the how, but about the what needs to be fixed. So it's not going to tell you how to fix something. That's your insights. It's about what needs to be fixed. So we can give the information, and that's where the benchmarking clubs are really beneficial, is that it gives an opportunity to have a look at that data and then go, okay, so how are we going to fix this? How, what can we share with each other to actually get this right? Just with regards to using the sort of benchmarking insights, benchmarking information in the business planning cycle, it's you take the results, you analyze and what is the story, what is it, how are we doing internally, how are we doing against our own KPIs, how are we doing externally against our peers, understanding why there are gaps. Why are we doing really well? What is it that we're really doing well and maybe can replicate across the business or share with other people? It's then looking at what decisions need to be made. Are they really sort of critical decisions? Do we now need to relook at our target operating model, or is it just a case of looking and reviewing certain processes or structures within, small structure changes within the organization? Or allocating resources, looking at capacity, capability, maybe that's changed a bit and reflecting that. It's and then implementing sort of the evidence-based business strategy and improvement plans, and then being able to monitor yourselves against that. So it really is a really critical tool. And as I say, the data is key in this. Just some key points to note. Our benchmarking only focuses on general needs, housing for older people and support. TSM obviously does everything else, but for our benchmarking clubs, it's general needs, housing for older people and support only. But the definitions can also be found on the profile page. So the profile page, when you go into your entry, into your actual page, if you drop down, you'll see the HA profile, and you'll be able to see what the definition is for general needs, housing for older people and support. There are sort of limited expectations in the financial metrics, so sort of overall margins, etc. So we don't, we gather that information, but we don't really talk about it. But what it does is it gives people an idea of how others are situated within their own sort of environment. It will be different, and again, it'll depend on your context in your organization. We do capture other information on your profile page. So things like turnover, staffing levels, and this is used to be able to, because you can self-serve on the actual system. And if you want to actually compare yourselves against other peer groups outside of your club, you can do that, and you are able to then choose it. So when you draw down a report, you're able to choose it, and the way to do that is to be able to actually go in and see, okay, they have general properties, same sort of amount as mine, or housing for older people. They look similar sort of staffing, and then you're able to draw that down. So please, when you do submit your end of year data, ensure that you update your profile, because that could have changed, mergers could have happened, you could have taken on more stock, you could have disposed of stock, etc. You could, anything could have happened. So just make sure that you do update your profile. That would be great. Thank you. So finding the definitions. So I've spoken about the definitions, which are really important. These definitions have been done in collaboration with yourselves, at the time with Housemark. So it's definitions that are used by all. And if you deviate from those definitions, then the data that you're putting into the system isn't the same as everybody else's, and it really sort of throws it. So please do go in. When you go in and you start putting in your data, that will obviously say 23, 24. When you do start putting in your data, and if you're all putting in quarterly data, and you're putting in Q4, when you put that in, just click on the question mark next to it, and it comes up and it tells you the definition, it tells you the rationale, why you're doing it, what the point of this actual PR is, and then the definition, and it also explains the formula, and then it gives you a working example. So it's really, it is all there. But again, if you're having a problem with that, or if it doesn't seem to fit your specific needs, just contact us and we can have a conversation about that. Hope that's all clear. So, and that's finding the definition. So I'm going to go on to talking about the sort of key PRs that we collect. I mean, there are more, and some of the clubs collect different data. Some clubs also do biannual. Most, and I think there are 3 clubs currently doing biannual. For the purposes of this presentation, I'm going to be speaking mostly about annual submission, but there will be a bit about this biannual quarterly submissions. So it's just really focusing on the key ones where people maybe do come a little bit unstuck or want a bit more information. So the first one will be on allocations and lettings metrics, and it'll be about the GNPR 30, and that's these are all general needs, housing for older people, and supported housing. So which, if an organization's got all 3, they'll be reporting on all 3. If they've only got 2, they'll be reporting on 2. So the first one is the percentage of voids lost. So rent lost through dwellings being vacant. So that's dwellings being vacant. For this specific one, you would include major works. So you know, doesn't matter, you know, why it's actually empty, but you will include major works. What you don't include, and you know, we'll get to that, but I'll just do this in conversation, is anything that you've decided you're no longer going to use as part of your social dwellings. So where you're awaiting demolition, or you might be doing something with it, but you're no longer going to be using it for social purposes, then you don't count that in there. And the calculation for that is rent and service charge lost due to the dwelling being vacant, as a percentage of the gross rent and service charges receivable. So hopefully that's quite clear. So that's the numerator over the denominator times by 100. So the total, so the gross rent, so when you look at the numerator, which is your, when you look at the denominator, which is your gross rent and service charge receivable, it's a total potential rent and service charges allocated for the period if all dwellings had been occupied. So it's just for that period, and it's the total rent or service charges. So it's quite sort of clear, and it's quite specific. The dwellings might have been vacant for any reason, including dwellings that are unavailable to let. So if you can't let it because you're waiting for decants or major works or whatever, you still need to include that. So unlike your average relet times, which we will come on to, this one does need to have your major works. I can't expand on that any further. So exclude completely if it's unavailable to let because the stock is not expected to be let. If inputting quarterly data, it's cumulative. So it's your numerator is year to date, rent or service loss charge, and your denominator pro rata the annual rent and service charge. But as I say, not many of you are actually doing it. But the most critical at the end anyway is the annual data that you need to submit. Coming on to the second of those allocation letting metrics, which is the GNPI 36, yeah, so it's all the 36 series. So that's the average relet time in calendar days. Important to note that it's calendar days and not working days. So the rationale for this is the efficiency of key business process so it's to ensure that the process that you have in place is that well refined, defined, and understood that you actually limit the amount of time something is standing, not being an asset to the organization. So so it isolates most voids, so standards or routine relets. It excludes major work, new lets, succession, exchanges, voids, held for decants, etc. So this one excludes a whole lot of those areas noted, and any major works that never convert to standard or routine once work is finished always stay separate. So major works that never convert to standard or routine work once the work phase is finished always stay separate from this. So again, it's the numerator over the denominator, and the total number of days the standard relet properties were vacant in the period against over the number of standard relets in the period. So lettings in the period. So number of days vacant. So it's the days between the tenancy end date and the tenancy start date. So the day the property goes vacant does not count as an actual day let or unlet. So it's unlike in repairs where it has to be counted from the day the repair is reported to the day it's completed. This is in between. So the day the property goes vacant does not count nor actual day let. So you can get a 0 day. There are a few organizations that do have 0 days, which is amazing, but you can't get a negative. And they just to reinforce again that they're counted as calendar days. So you also count squats from after repro dates and the police use from after handback date. So if the police are using it for anything, surveillance or anything, it's counted after the handback date. So only include voids once let and include the whole time, e.g. it may become a void in the previous reporting period, but only include voids once let and the whole period. So if it is in the previous period, you bring it across. Long and again, you will have seen this on some of your data. Any long voids will definitely impact your data, and that's where it's important that you have a story about that. There might be a really good reason why there's a long void, but it really does impact the data. So just a quick one on the major works definitions. Works that can reasonably be carried out with a tenant in situ, for example, works which is necessary for property to remain habitable, structural, floor, walls and roofs. The best way to sort of remember this is if you had to decant the resident, then that's a major work because you couldn't do it with them in situ. So anything that's sort of safety and security, service installations, we're doing water heating. So just anything where you would normally, if the resident was in living there and you would have to have moved them out, you would count that as a major work. If you're doing it with them in situ, then it's not a major work. And then the last of the allocations and lettings metrics, which is a series 39, this is a relet as a percentage of stock. So the rationale is provide the context to relet times and void loss indicators may indicate churn for whatever reason. So there might be difficulty to let, and that could be for a number of reasons. So the definition is relets at a proportion of the units managed. So anything you manage, exclude own stock if you're not managing it. It's only the stock that you manage. If you've got stock, but you've let it out to somebody else to manage, you don't include that at all. The calculation for that is the number of properties relet during the period against the number of properties managed. So as with void loss, include dwellings vacant for any reason, including major works, except where there's no use, as they're not going to be used again for social housing awaiting demolition. So at this stage, I am going to stop sharing and I'm going to just see if there are any questions in the chat. No. Hopefully that's because that was clear enough. But obviously happy to take questions afterwards, or, you know, at any time if you want to contact me, happy to do that as well. Okay, so we'll go on to the next one, which is the income management metrics. So these are different by client groups. So we do have different ones for supported and general needs. And then we've got ones for general needs, housing for older people, supported. And then we have some for rent arrears and net of unpaid HB, and that covers everybody. So just be careful, not all these ones don't all are not relevant to everybody. So the first one is supported and general needs, and that's a rent collected as a percentage of rent owned, and it excludes any arrears brought forward. So I think that that's an important note to remember, that just exclude arrears brought forward. So it's rent collected as a percentage of rent owed. And then we have the current tenant arrears as a percentage of the annual rent debt. And then we have rent arrears net of unpaid housing benefits. So the first one, if we look at it in more detail, the rationale for this one is the efficiency of key process and income maximization financial capacity. So we're interested in the effectiveness of current collection processes. So, you know, is it working well? Are you getting in the money when you need to get it in, and in the right way and in the right period? So the arrears metrics are historic and especially suited to trend analysis over time. So it is historic. So the calculation on this is actual rent and service charges income received year to date. So it's received in the period. So that is particularly for people who are reporting quarterly rather than just annually, and actual rent and service charge due year to date. Again, that's just for, it wouldn't be year to date. Well, it could be your cumulative amount in Q4 that you're going to be putting that in. Don't adjust for late housing benefit payments, prepayments, or post payments. So just don't adjust, just have that in there. So no adjustments get made on this specific PR. Exclude rent loss due to properties being vacant. So exclude void loss, only count tenanted properties. So important that it's only tenanted properties. Excludes current rent arrears brought forward at the beginning of the year. Only rents should be from the current year. And exclude garages. We don't get involved in garages at all in both the numerator or the denominator, so just exclude them. So other non-rent service charge items collected by the landlord should be excluded if possible. So water rates, court costs, repairs, charges, recharges, overpaid housing benefits. If you are unable to split these out of the rent collected, include them in both of the numerator and denominator. Don't sweat if it's just too much to split them to split them out or exclude them. But what you do with the one, you need to do with the other. I think that's just really important. It's not going to matter too much. And it is possible to score over 100% if making headways with historic arrears. Some people go, oh, you can't make over 100%, but actually with this one, you absolutely can. We're looking at the series 220 and 13, and that's the current tenant arrears as a percentage of the annual rent debt. So the rationale for this is effective arrears process income maximization, particularly useful over time and trend. So you can see the trend on that collection rate. So this one is the actual current tenant rent and service charge arrears at the period end. So at the end of the specific period that you're reporting for, over the annual rent service debt for the current financial year, excluding voids loss. For this one, you exclude voids loss from the denominator, and court costs, sundry debts, garages, etc., as per the previous metric, and arrears from the previous tenancy. So you don't include, if there's been a change in tenancy, you don't include the previous tenancy arrears. Only interested in current rent and service charges, service arrears. Advance payments, you must exclude those because they could mark the true arrears, because they can ask for it back. So if they've paid a whole lot in advance, don't report on that because you don't know if it is yours for the entire period. I'm just going to need to move this up because it's in the way. There we go. So just a quick one, and I'm not going to dwell on this because there's not very many people doing the doing the quarterly submissions. But for those of you who are, if you collect quarterly, how do you provide annual rent debt for current financial year, excluding void loss, as you don't know what the voids you will be getting. And this is part of the reason why lots of people don't do it anymore. So whatever you have at quarter end for rent debt, excluding voids loss, is projected forward. So quarter one, if you've got 100,000 rent debt minus 1,000 voids loss, it will be 99. So in quarter one, 13 weeks have elapsed so 99 of 13 divided by 13 gives you a weekly debt minus void loss of 7,615. But I'm not going to spend much time on this. The definition is in there, but that's how you would calculate it. Rent arrears net of unpaid housing benefits. So the rationale is to calculate the previous metric. It's like the previous metric, but this allows you to adjust for the housing benefit cycle. It deals with the technical arrears. Simply exclude arrears due to late housing benefits payments in this one. So where there's late housing benefits, you exclude them for this specific metric. So it's a bit different to that. So that one, you will see that it's included. This one you will exclude. Okay, and so before I go on to repairs and maintenance, assets management, I'm going to stop and just see if there are any questions.
Leah, I have a question.
Okay.
Just to say, very interestingly, on HMHO 220, the guidance because what I have is a massive spreadsheet which includes all of the guidance information and automatically calculates from our accounts the metrics where I'm able to. So what I do when I attended this session for the last 2 years, I've updated that spreadsheet so it includes the guidance. And interestingly, what the guidance this time last year was advance payments and credits under HMHO 220 should be excluded because they mask the true arrears, not your pounds. They can ask for it back. So it's interesting that you're saying something different.
So they exclude arrears.
they exclude
Yes.
prepayments. Advance payments should be excluded from HMHO 220.
220. Let me just look at here. Annual current rent, so HM 220. I'm just going.
And whereas you've just said, actually, you need to include them. Unless I've misunderstood you.
Oh no, that was for 410. Sorry, that was for so you for rent arrears net of unpaid HB. So for HMH 220, you exclude voids loss from the denominator, court costs, arrears from previous tenancies, and advance payments and credits.
All right, okay. And what I'm saying is the advice previously given was that they should be excluded. So that is different to the advice we appear to have received before. I'm just going to say, because actually what it will mean is that I've excluded them previously, as I presume others have. And what will happen is when you're comparing year on year, you're comparing a basket of apples with a basket of pears.
That's interesting, because I've taken these from Steve. I've just rehashed the slides from Steve's slides, and this one is almost from
all right,
Steve's.
I may have made a mistake, but certainly that's what we've done.
I will check that definitely.
Okay.
But thank you. Thanks for that, Jill. But yeah, typically they should be, because that would mask it. Okay, thank you. All right. And I'm going to carry on, and this actually, let me just quickly stop sharing and see if there were any other questions. And I guess on Jill's point, if anybody wants to put something in the comments to say, as you understand it, or if you've been doing it differently, that would be good. Fiona, did you have your hand up? Or is that for another time? Okay, if anybody knows differently, please feel free to put it in here, and it will definitely be something I will pick up on as well. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so the next one is on the repairs and maintenance, so asset management metrics. So the repair metrics apply across, again, the 3 tenure types. The first one is the average number of responsive repairs per unit. And the second one is percentage of repairs completed at first visit, the contentious one, but we still keeping that. And then the average end-to-end time for all reactive repairs. You'll note that there are probably some PRs that have now come out of this, and you would have been notified of it last year, because they actually resemble the ones that are in the TSMs. So we don't repeat that exercise. So SWBM 201, average number of responsive repairs per unit, is the rationale is as much about context as performance. The high numbers, poor, if you've got like high numbers, is it because there's poor diagnostics, poor application of repairs policy, poor quality, possibly problems with your contractor? So it really is quite important that you do understand what your average number of responsive repairs are per unit, because it probably means there's something that unit or those units in a specific area need as part of maybe a planned cyclical activity. So it is important that you look at that, but then also look to see actually if there's something else amiss as well. So that's the total number of responsive repairs orders issued during the benchmarking period over the total number of units where the landlord is responsible for responsive repairs. So again, this is just where you are responsible for the responsive repairs, not somebody else. So the definition of reactive or responsive is key. So all minor ad hoc planned repairs, regardless of priority, that are reported by the tenant or arise from damage, wear and tear to the communal areas and common parts. Defect, that is the landlord's responsibility to make good, is also included. So count jobs rather than SOR lines. So several SOR tasks might batch up into one job. It's not an exact science, especially, where you might do things differently when you batch together as part of an annual visit. But just as far as possible, try and batch it as one job if they've gone to, if it's the bath has leaked and then you've got to replace the floor, etc. It's all relevant to that one repair issue, counted as one job. Exclude repairs undertaken as part of the predetermined maintenance program. So if it's gas, cyclical, including making good types of repairs, if you can split them out, that's great. And any voids repairs, so those get excluded. So it's only your day-to-day responsive repairs that get included in this specific matrix. HMP 101. So that is the percentage of repairs completed at first visit. And I know we have a number of conversations about this in some of our meetings, but it is still one of those ones where I think the board really wants oversight on. They just feel it's really important to know that customers are getting getting responsive repairs. What I guess we all argue is that, is it about the time taken to do the repair or the quality of the repair? I think now it's been recognized as part of the TSMs that they don't do the first time visit. They acknowledge that it could take a couple of visits to actually get the repair done. But what's really important is communicating with the resident and making sure that when the repair is done, it's done to the right standard. So previously, this was a percentage of repairs completed right first time, but this is now on the sort of first visit. These metrics, as I just said, have a couple of problems, and it's been tweaked over time, but still clunky, and it is just a historical request, I think, from boards. It's your number of responsive repairs completed by operative without need to return a second time. Over all responsive repairs completed emergency, and that includes emergency, urgent, and routine. So it's where they haven't had to go back a second time. Over all responsive repairs completed. Where a job requires multiple trades and the work completed first visit, so long as each trade completes it in one visit as planned. So it gets a little bit messy here. So even if they had to go in on different days, but they actually completed it on the day they were supposed to do it, it's counted. Exclude anything that's where there's no access, where it's communal repairs or diagnostics on pre-inspection diagnostics. Flag an issue, and because this is a remedial action only. So if there is an issue, don't include it. So this is the last one, the average end-to-end time for all reactive repairs. So this is the percentage of repairs completed in target time. So it's setting different targets. So again, not ideal because people have different targets. And there is a consultation has gone out now about actually bringing everybody in line and having specific targets, days. So it's a bit different. So it's really important as part of your data when you put it in, if you could just say what your targeted times are for your routine, emergency, and urgent, that would be great. A timely service is what residents want, tenants want. So, but I think they want a timely service, but they also want a quality service. So shorter averages suggest efficient processes, but maybe at the risk of quality. And those are just things that really, I think, need to be considered as part of this specific driving this behavior and this metric. Is it at the risk of quality? So the definition is average number of calendar days between responsive repairs being requested and it's satisfactorily completed, include the day of request and the day of completion. So that's really important, from the time it came into the time of completion, because I think quite a few systems that the landlords are using are a little bit different. Gets logged onto CRM and then maybe it gets logged the next day onto the repair system. But it really needs to be taken from the time the resident actually reported it to the time it was handed back as complete. And that's to be decided by the landlord. So I'm just going to stop sharing there and just see if there's any other questions. I'm guessing people are able to use the chat facility. I have got it on for everyone, so.
No, it comes up for me.
Does it come up for you? Excellent. Thanks, Peter. Thank you.
And just, it's not really a question, it's more of a comment for the last one about the average end-to-end repair times.
Yeah.
Because it's just that context of, you know, if an organisation has sort of a higher number of urgent rather than routine, or how that's kind of factored into it. Because if you have a lot more sort of with a longer time scale than you do urgent and emergency, that's going to skew the figures. But there doesn't seem to be any accounting for that in the metric.
Yeah, because it is, and that's just that is a caveat on that specific metric. Is you could have different timescales. Some people have 24 hours, some people have 3 days, and there is in the data you can capture what your policy is on that. But absolutely, it's a difficult one. But typically, the data will show if it's going over sort of 15 days for a routine repair, you would be asking questions, unless that's because you can't get the contractor or you can't get materials. But yes, it is a problem with that metric. And you know, that is there is that is it Wade's law that they're looking at, and they're trying to then knuckle down the sort of repairs timescale, so everybody reports on the same timescales. Yeah. So yeah. And the last one, which isn't good, I'm not going to spend much time on, it's just the satisfaction. It's pretty straightforward. Quite a few were taken out last year because they are part of the TSMs. And if you come to the conference, Denise will be doing a session on the TSMs, and I'll also be doing a Teams, probably not a Zoom, on the TSM satisfaction measures. But the ones that are currently still in there are come from STAR, and they're still really active, and the definitions are still the same. And they do give you a lot of really key vital information for your value for money reporting, and they also give you a good idea on what is going on in your neighborhoods and the quality of your home in order to actually respond to those. So as I say, I'm not going to spend much time on that, but if anybody wants to talk any further on those, that's fine. But just please stick to those specific definitions. And then also, if we're getting your TSM data, if we're doing it ourselves or you inputting it, then it will flesh out some more of those satisfaction metrics that are no longer being collected through benchmarking. And just a reminder that the tutorial videos, there are tutorial videos on how to actually complete the data capture on your portals on the web. But there's obviously us as well. You can contact us, and there's a few of us that can give you a one-to-one session. This session will also be on the website together with the presentation pack. So yes, I'm just going to open it up to any questions. I don't know if any of you can self-unmute, because if you can, and you feel like asking a question, please feel free to do that, or I'm not sure if I have to allow you to talk. So you can, anybody said it. So I'm going to take that. There's no questions, no chat, Jill. I will certainly be looking into that right now, and I'll get back to you and everybody else with regard to your question. Nothing?
No, I could have got it wrong, but as I say, it seems, because I tend to update the spreadsheet in the middle of, as the session is going on, and I've done today. And it's different to the associated KPI. The information I put in is different. So
yes,
it would be interesting to know.
Yep. No, I'll go back and look. I'll look at Steve's stuff, and I'll also look at our definitions. But thanks for alerting me to that. Okay, thanks everyone.
Thank you. That was helpful.
And see some
Thank
of you
you.
on Thursday.
That's great.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.